of course. Here's the complete story, fully adapted to an American context, maintaining the original narrative, detail, and length. After the wedding, on the way from the reception to my husband's home for our wedding night, I received a text. Asterisk. Pretend you forgot something and come back here alone. I have something to show you. Asterisk. That evening in New York, a light breeze was blowing. The sky had just cleared after an early season rain, and the pavement of the streets still glistened with water. I stood on the balcony, watching the stream of traffic flow by, and suddenly felt my own life drifting, though I didn't know where to. My name is Catherine. On the surface, people would say I had it made. An inherited brownstone on the Upper East Side, a few commercial properties for lease, and equity in the real estate development and materials company my parents had left behind. But that good fortune felt like a beautiful coat that was cold when you put it on. My parents died in an accident when I was in my early 20s. One day we were having dinner together. The next, their place settings were neatly arranged, untouched. My father used to say, in life, money can be clear-cut, but it's the human heart that's treacherous. My mother taught me that a woman must have a clear head. You can know a person's face, but their heart is a mystery. I heard them, I remembered, but at the time, I still thought people lived by trust and affection. After my parents' funeral, I had no shortage of visitors. Some came with genuine concern, others to probe for information. I slowly withdrew into myself. I went to work, attended meetings, signed documents, and came home. Maria, our family's longtime housekeeper, stayed with me. She loved me like her own daughter, quietly reheating a pot of soup and asking softly, "Would you like another bite, dear?" A simple question like that could sometimes bring me to tears. I lived like that until one of the commercial properties I leased needed renovations. One afternoon, I stopped by the site and saw a team of contractors taking measurements, dust motes dancing in the sunbeams. That's when Ethan approached. He was wearing a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, speaking politely, addressing the older workers as sir and calling me ma'am with perfect professional courtesy. He wasn't pushy. He just handed me a bottle of water and said, "It's slippery over here. You should walk closer to the wall to be safe." Then he smiled a measured smile. Not too slick, not too cold. Ethan worked efficiently, explaining each item on the project list clearly, and even reminded me to keep all the invoices and records for future reference. We started seeing each other more because of the work. Every time I visited, Ethan would stand up to greet me, never acting overly familiar. One day, the sun was scorching, and he offered me a clean, hard hat. "You should wear this. The New York sun can give you a nasty headache." I smiled and said I was fine. He just nodded, not insisting. That respect for boundaries was a breath of fresh air for someone like me, who was used to living alone. Then one evening, I came down with a fever. I was standing in the kitchen, my hands shaking so much I couldn't even lift the lid off a pot of soup. Maria, worried when she couldn't reach me by phone, called the number on the business card Ethan had left with the project estimate. I only remember opening the door to see Ethan standing there with a container of hot soup and a bag of medicine. He spoke softly. "Maria asked me to drop this off on my way home. Please, don't feel awkward." I did feel awkward, but that feeling was mixed with the warmth of being cared for. After that, Ethan never used it to his advantage. He remained as composed as ever, still called me ma'am at work, and even reminded me to protect my parents' assets. "That's their life's work," he said. "You have to guard it carefully." His words made me trust him even more. I told myself I had finally met a decent man. Almost a year later, when my heart had softened, Ethan asked to take me to meet his family. "My mother can be a bit old-fashioned, but she loves her children," he said. "Just be polite and gentle. I'll handle the rest." I was a little nervous. Maria was both happy and worried for me, advising me to wear a tasteful dress in a soft color. "Don't go empty-handed," she said. "A nice box of tea would be a proper gesture." Ethan's family lived in Queens, in a neighborhood of row houses that was clean and well-kept. His mother, Sharon, opened the door and looked me over from head to toe before breaking into a bright smile. She pulled me in by the hand, her voice sweet. "Oh, you must be Catherine. Come in. Come in. This house has been missing a woman's touch for far too long." Jessica, Ethan's sister, stood up politely. "Hi, it's nice to meet you." I nodded, a wave of relief washing over me at the warm welcome. There was only one thing. As Sharon turned to go into the kitchen, I caught a fleeting glimpse of her eyes darting to the watch on my wrist. It was the way someone appraises an expensive item, a tiny, swift glance. So quick that if you weren't paying attention, you'd think you'd imagined it. But my father once said, "The wind doesn't blow for no reason. Something has to stir it." Standing in that house, filled with the aroma of pot roast, listening to the clatter of plates, I suddenly felt a slight chill run down my spine. I dismissed the chill I felt at Ethan's house as me being overly sensitive. I was the type of person who, once I made a decision, didn't want to second-guess it, fearing the misery of constant suspicion. Besides, Ethan always knew how to quell my anxieties. On the drive back, he spoke casually. "My mom tends to scrutinize people, but she genuinely likes you. Don't worry about the small stuff." He finished with a smile so sincere, it made me think I was just being paranoid. "You have to trust a branch to know if it will hold you," I told myself, trying to find peace. We dated for nearly 2 years before getting married. Ethan wasn't a flashy man. He was patient, considerate, and incredibly proper. When I was busy, he didn't complain. When I was tired, he didn't press me with questions. Even on the most private matter, the assets my parents left me, he said the one thing that completely won me over. "Catherine, that's your parents' legacy. You hold on to it tight. Don't ever transfer titles or hand over documents to anyone. In life, it's better to be safe than sorry." Hearing that, my trust in him solidified. A man who reminds his girlfriend to protect her own assets, you'd think, must be a good man. I never imagined some people are decent with their words, while their hands are quietly measuring a rope for your neck. During that time, I had Megan. Megan had been my best friend since college. The kind of friend I thought would be the first to come running if I was ever in trouble. My mother had helped Megan with her tuition for a while, and when she was broke, she stayed with us for a few months. My mother adored her for her gentle, hardworking nature, her polite speech, and her eyes, which always held a hint of sadness, as if she were afraid of being abandoned. As an adult, Megan maintained that gentle demeanor. Everything was, "Oh, Kate, this, and Kate, darling, that, sweet as honey." She often advised me, "If you find a good man, hold on to him. People move so fast these days." I would laugh and say, "Well, I'm trying to slow down." Megan would laugh too, but her smile never quite reached her eyes. I didn't notice, because I never liked to suspect someone I had helped, someone I had shared so much with. I certainly never thought that something else was festering inside her. The thing people summarize in one sentence: even the closest of friends can become rivals. As Ethan and I grew more serious, his family became more involved in my life. Sharon started calling regularly, sometimes to ask what I was eating, other times to lecture me on being a proper woman. She'd say things that sounded like life lessons, but were actually little pricks. "A woman's grace is what sets her apart. Even a wealthy woman must know humility. A daughter-in-law who acts high and mighty will see her marriage fail sooner or later." I would listen, smile, and agree, thinking all mothers-in-law probably say such things to establish their authority. But gradually, she began skillfully weaving money into her moral lessons. A husband and wife are one entity. Once you're married, you support your husband so he can focus on building a career. If you cling to your own things, it wounds a man's pride. Then, she would add, "I'm only saying this because I care about you," leaving me no room to object. Jessica was different. She didn't preach morality. She probed. Every time we met, she'd ask with feigned innocence, "So, Kate, you have more properties for lease? How much do they bring in a month?" Then she'd shift to, "Your brownstone on the Upper East Side. I hear property values there are insane now, right?" One time, she even giggled, "Hey, maybe we can go into business together someday." It sounded friendly, but it felt like someone smiling at you while their hand was inching toward your pocket. I once tentatively mentioned this to Ethan. He immediately waved it off. "My sister's just like that. She's still immature. Don't take it to heart." My mom is the same, her words are harsh, but her heart is good. Then, he put his arm around my shoulder and said the one thing that made me feel petty. "If you love me, you have to love my family too. Think of it as us, practicing to be a family." That phrase, "practicing to be a family," hit my deepest vulnerability. I longed for a real family, so anyone who offered me that feeling, I was quick to trust. Then came the wedding preparations. I meticulously planned everything: the rehearsal dinner, the floral arrangements, the wedding gown, the rings, the venue. Megan, as my maid of honor, was by my side through it all, from dress fittings to flower selections. She was so enthusiastic that everyone praised her. Catherine, your friend is so devoted. Megan would often make little jokes to ease my stress. Don't you worry. With me as your maid of honor, you're guaranteed to land this husband. No chance of him getting away. I'd laugh, thinking how sweet she was. The only odd thing was that around this time, Ethan started getting unusually busy. He'd leave early and come home late, claiming to have meetings with partners or to be managing projects. Megan also had a habit of disappearing for hours at a time, only to text later, "Sorry, got caught up with something. I'll be over soon." I wasn't suspicious. People getting ready for a wedding are always stressed. I had no idea that during those busy times, Ethan and Megan were meeting in secret, discussing things that, had I heard them, would have stopped me from taking another step toward that altar. But at that moment, I was still joyful. I was picking out rings, trying on my gown, writing out the guest list, and imagining bringing a home-cooked meal to my in-laws' house, calling Sharon Mom to fulfill my wifely duty. I even thought to myself, if you live righteously, fate won't betray you. A wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event, so I wanted everything to be done properly. Not in a showy way, but in keeping with the standards my family always upheld. My parents taught me to be mindful in all things, and a wedding, especially, had to honor their memory. I sat with Maria for hours, listing every expense, every detail. She kept sighing, "You always think of others. I just hope they appreciate you in return." I smiled and said, "Don't worry, Maria. We'll be one family soon, and Ethan is a good man." Despite my words, I silently reminded myself to keep my parents' documents as safe as my own honor. It wasn't about distrusting anyone. It was simply a habit of being safe rather than sorry. I chose a wedding date at the end of the rainy season, when the weather was less humid and easier for travel. For the family ceremony, I prepared everything by the book: fine teas, good wine, elegant cakes, a cornucopia of fruit, and fresh flowers. I wore a gown in a soft, blush pink, not too flashy, not too matronly. The week before, I'd had someone tend to my parents' memorial niche, replacing the flowers and cleaning their photographs. Standing before their pictures, a lump formed in my throat. I lit a stick of incense and whispered, "Mom, Dad, I'm getting married. All I want is a family to lean on." Sharon called constantly, sometimes reminding me of the bride's family's responsibilities, other times hinting at the groom's family's reputation. One day she said, "Catherine, dear, I'm not demanding, but if the wedding is too modest, the relatives will talk. My family isn't as well off as yours, so you need to help me save face." She said it gently, but the word need was a sharp point. I still said yes. I voluntarily increased the budget for the reception to make it more lavish, not to buy her favor, but to save Ethan from any awkwardness. I even ordered extra gifts for his relatives: gourmet teas, bird's nest soup, and boxed pastries, a gesture of goodwill. Jessica, however, took full advantage. She sent me a whole list of small requests, from a fruit basket for her aunt to cash-filled envelopes for her uncle. She even added, "And remember to order extra flowers for the centerpiece at our house." My mom loves chrysanthemums. Reading her messages was both amusing and exhausting. But I did it all thinking, let's just get through the wedding. During those days, Megan stuck to me like a shadow. She drove me to dress fittings, helped me choose flowers, and even stayed late to supervise the decorators at the venue. She always knew how to make a joke just when I was at my breaking point. While I was stressing, she'd quip, "Hey, after the wedding, don't forget to let your maid of honor make a graceful exit." I'd burst out laughing. My spirits lifted. Megan also said, "They say a united couple can conquer anything. As long as you and Ethan are on the same page, everything will be fine." Hearing that gave me a little more confidence. For the reception, I chose the Parkview Manor in the heart of the city, the same place my parents had once celebrated my birthday. The manager, Mr. Davis, looked at me with tears in his eyes. "Catherine, you're all grown up. Your parents would have been so proud." He promised to personally oversee everything, from the decor to the sound system, and instructed his staff meticulously. "This is a family wedding. There can be no mistakes." Hearing him, I felt the warmth of having a loved one by my side. The wedding day arrived. New York was bathed in soft sunlight under a clear sky. I woke up early, the scent of lilies in the dressing room filling the air. Maria, adjusting my gown, murmured, "Smile, dear. It's your happy day." I looked at myself in the mirror, red lips, sparkling eyes, heart fluttering with excitement. I imagined soon calling another woman mom before my new family, and coming home at night to someone by my side, no more cold dinners alone. Megan, in a cream-colored bridesmaid dress, stood beside me, constantly adjusting my hair. She was so gentle that even the makeup artist commented, "Your friend is truly devoted." Ethan looked dashing in a perfectly tailored suit, his expression calm. He took my hand just before we walked down the aisle and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me." My throat tightened. I thought, I truly found a man who appreciates me. At the reception, Sharon was a whirlwind of laughter and conversation, introducing me to everyone. "This is my daughter-in-law. She's so gentle and respectful." Jessica bustled around like she owned the place, constantly saying, "This is my sister-in-law." I was happy, even though I overheard some catty remarks from his aunts, like, "The bride's family is loaded. Huh?" Or, "Now that you're married, remember your husband's family's ways." I let it all slide. On your wedding day, you let things go, as long as everything is peaceful. There were only a few strange moments that flashed by. Like when I was passing the prep rooms and saw Megan and Ethan standing very close in the hallway, whispering. The moment they saw me, they separated. Megan smiled. "I was just reminding Ethan to check on the wedding flowers, Kate." I nodded, scolding myself for being suspicious. Then, during the photo session, I saw Ethan staring at his phone for a long time, his expression tense. When I asked, he just smiled. Just a business partner, sending congratulations. The reception ended with toasts and well wishes. I was exhausted but blissful. The kind of happiness of someone who believes their life is about to turn a new page. That night, we went back to our new apartment. Ethan told me to rest while he showered first. I changed my clothes and sat on the bed, looking at the bridal bouquet on the nightstand, the music and cheers still echoing in my head. I texted Maria. Asterisk, "Are you asleep?" "I'm fine, don't worry." Asterisk. She replied immediately. Asterisk. "Get some rest, dear. Call me if you need anything." Asterisk. I put my phone down and pulled up the covers. In the new room, everything smelled of fresh linens. I closed my eyes, my heart as light as a feather, and thought one simple, true thing. I finally have a home. The next morning, I woke up later than usual, my body feeling as if it had just weathered a joyful storm. In the new apartment, sunlight streamed through the thin curtains, casting pale yellow stripes on the floor. The scent of the wedding bouquet lingered, mingled with the smell of fresh fabric softener from the new bed linens. The scent that had felt so warm last night now felt strangely unfamiliar, like I was in someone else's house. Ethan was already up. I heard clattering in the kitchen, then the sound of him pulling out a chair. He had placed a bowl of hot pho on the table, the broth clear, the beef neatly arranged, the scallions of vibrant green. He looked at me and smiled. "You're awake? Eat something to get your strength back. I'll be back early this afternoon, and we can go visit my mom." I nodded, still groggy. I vaguely remembered falling asleep, almost immediately last night. Ethan pulled out a chair and sat opposite me, his voice warm. "I have a quick meeting with a partner. You just rest, don't worry about a thing." He stood up and leaned down to kiss my forehead. Yesterday, that gesture would have made me blush with happiness. This morning, my heart felt as empty as a freshly washed bowl. He changed his clothes quickly, and before leaving, he turned back to remind me, "Don't drive yourself. If you need to go anywhere, call a car service. It's safer." I agreed out of habit. After Ethan left, the apartment fell silent. I sat there, staring at the steaming bowl of pho. But I had no appetite. I ate a few bites for the sake of it, then got up to wash the dishes, telling myself I was a wife now and had to get used to it. People say a wife must build her home. I wanted to build, not to tear down. As I was puttering in the kitchen, my phone rang. It was Mr. Davis. I was a bit surprised. The wedding was over. What could he be calling about? I answered, and before I could even say hello, his voice came through, low and urgent, all the cheerfulness from yesterday gone. "Catherine, listen to me carefully. Are you alone right now?" I froze. "Yes, I'm home alone." "What's wrong?" Mr. Davis took a deep breath, like someone trying to stay calm. "Come to the venue right now. Come alone, and do not, under any circumstances, let Ethan know. Take a car. Don't drive. And don't call any of your friends." My hands suddenly felt ice cold. "What is it, Mr. Davis? Did someone cause trouble?" "I can't explain over the phone. Just get here as soon as you can." Please, listen to me. I'm begging you." That phrase, "I'm begging you," made my heart pound. Mr. Davis had known my family since my parents were alive. He wasn't the type for drama. If he was saying this, it had to be serious. I managed to swallow. "Okay, I'm on my way." After hanging up, I stood motionless for a few seconds, my mind a fog. The house was too quiet. I looked around. Everything was new, but I felt like I was standing in a room with no exit. I rushed to my bedroom and changed into simple clothes, jeans, and a light-colored blouse, no makeup. Before leaving, I remembered Maria's words. Asterisk. "Call me if anything is strange." Asterisk. But Mr. Davis had said not to call anyone. I settled for sending Maria a short text. Asterisk. "Going out for a bit. Be back later." Asterisk. Then I called a car. On the way to the venue, New York was as noisy as ever. Cars and people rushed by. Cafes played music. But I felt like I was moving against the current, heading into a dark place. I sat in the back of the car, clutching my purse, repeating a phrase my mother used to say. "Wherever you go, keep a clear head." I tried to stay clear, but my heart was racing. The Parkview Manor was much quieter during the day. Yesterday, it had been resplendent with lights and flowers. Today, it just smelled of floor cleaner, with a few staff members walking about. Mr. Davis was waiting at a side entrance, not the main one. The moment he saw me, he pulled me inside, his face as taut as a drum string. "Catherine, stay calm and listen. Did you bring anyone with you?" I shook my head. "No, just me." He nodded quickly. "Good. Follow me." He didn't lead me to the main hall or his office, but straight down a back staircase toward the basement. His steps were hurried, while my legs felt like jelly. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears, mixed with the hum of the air conditioning. The security room door opened, and cold white light hit my eyes. Inside, 2 monitors displayed live camera feeds. A few files were stacked on a desk. The atmosphere was nothing like any place I'd been before. It felt like a courtroom, cold and heavy. Mr. Davis closed and locked the door, then turned to face me, his eyes filled with a mixture of pity and fear. "Catherine, what you're about to hear might knock you off your feet, but you have to listen. Because if you don't, you'll be in danger." I gripped the back of a chair. "Mr. Davis, just tell me." He opened a drawer and took out a sleek, black metal pen. It was small, but clearly expensive. He placed it on the desk like a piece of evidence. "Last night, while cleaning the bridal suite, one of the janitors found this. It was stuck under a chair leg. She's been with us for years. Your mother helped her out once. She heard your name mentioned in the recording, so she got scared and brought it straight to me." I frowned. "A recording pen?" He nodded. "Yes. A recorder." I still didn't fully understand, but a primal fear made the hair on my arms stand up. Mr. Davis turned a monitor toward me and rewound a video clip. On the screen was the hallway outside the bridal suite. The angle was from a distance, so faces weren't clear, but the figures were recognizable. He pointed. "Look here. Right before the ceremony, 2 people went into your private dressing room. Ethan and Megan, your maid of honor. They were in there for nearly 15 minutes. Hearing Megan's name, my throat went dry. No, they probably just went in to check on something." Mr. Davis looked at me for a long moment, then plugged the recording pen into the computer. An audio file appeared on the screen. His finger hovered over the play button, as if hesitating, afraid I would collapse on the spot. "Catherine, I'm asking you one last time. Can you handle this?" I squeezed my fingers until they hurt. "I can." Mr. Davis pressed play, and in the first few seconds, a familiar, giggling laugh filled the cold room, feeling like a needle piercing my eardrum. The moment Megan's laugh echoed through the room, my throat tightened, as if someone had stuffed a wet cotton ball down it. I wanted to cover my ears, but my hands wouldn't move. Mr. Davis sat across from me, his eyes filled with worry, as if he feared I might fall onto the cold tile floor. Through the speakers, Ethan's voice emerged, the same deep, calm voice I heard every night when he reminded me to eat well and sleep early. Only this time, it wasn't gentle. It was dripping with smug satisfaction. Megan's voice, though quiet, was clear. "Hurry up, they're calling for you." Ethan chuckled softly. "Relax. It's her wedding, she's the one who's busy. Just 10 minutes. Hearing that, my chest constricted. 10 minutes. In the bride's dressing room, just before walking down the aisle. The word "her," coming from Ethan's mouth, landed with the cold thud of an ice cube. Megan giggled. You're scaring me. What if someone sees us? Ethan answered coolly. So, what if they do? She trusts me like she trusts the sun to rise. We're not even married yet, and she's already given me the keys to the apartment, a schedule of all her assets. Megan laughed again. Yeah, that one's a classic case of all money and no love. Starved for warmth, so she'll fall for anyone who's halfway decent. My eyes suddenly stung, not with tears, but with humiliation. The humiliation of placing my trust in a cesspool. Ethan's tone shifted, becoming clipped and businesslike. Now that we're married, I'll wait a few months. Then I'll bring up investing, managing her cash flow. She hates paperwork. So, I'll tell her to sign a power of attorney to make things easier. She'll listen. Megan asked. What if she's stubborn? Ethan scoffed. Stubborn? I have my ways. A woman's biggest weakness is her fear of being shamed. I just need to ruin her credibility in front of everyone. Megan paused, then whispered. Are you sure about that? Medicine? Hearing the word medicine, goosebumps erupted all over my body. In the recording, Ethan spoke with precision, as if reciting a pre-written plan. I know a doctor, Evans, who's in debt. He's prescribing me a low-dose sedative disguised as a nutritional supplement. You know, for post-wedding insomnia. If she takes it regularly, she'll become forgetful, her hands will tremble, she'll lose focus. I'll make sure everyone around her sees she's acting strange. Then I'll take her to be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, maybe depression. Megan asked, and then what? Ethan answered slowly, as if savoring the words. Then I'll tell my mother, the relatives, that my wife isn't well. That for her own safety, I should manage the important documents. If she protests, it will just look like another symptom of her illness. Once everyone thinks she's unstable, anything she says will be worthless. I listened, cold sweat trickling down my spine. The old saying, a mouth full of prayers and a heart full of daggers, wasn't just a quaint proverb. I had thought Ethan loved me because I was lonely. No, he loved my emptiness because it was easy to fill with traps. Megan wasn't finished. And the money? Are you sure you can get much? Ethan let out a low laugh that made me want to vomit. Her brownstone on the Upper East Side. The company, equity, the commercial properties. Once she signs that power of attorney, I can leverage everything. After that, you can have anything you want. Megan's voice was like dripping honey. All I want is for her to look at me and know that anything she has, I can take. That sentence stabbed me right in the heart. I had saved Megan when she was desperate, treated her like family, and in her eyes, I was just a stepping stone. Mr. Davis reached out and tapped the desk gently, as if reminding me to breathe. I tried to swallow, my throat raw. The recording wasn't over. Megan's voice dropped. What if she still won't sign? If she fights back? Ethan replied without a hint of hesitation. Then we increase the dose. And if it drags on too long, there's a final option. A traffic accident. No one can prove it wasn't. The room seemed to go dark. The words traffic accident made my stomach drop. At that moment, the pain of betrayal was no longer the worst of it. It was fear. The fear of living with a man who could hold you with one hand while preparing to push you off a cliff with the other. I don't know how long I sat there. When the recording finally ended, my ears were still ringing. I looked at Mr. Davis, my lips trembling. What? What do I do? Mr. Davis leaned forward, speaking slowly, each word deliberate. Catherine, listen to me. You absolutely cannot let them know you know. If you go home and confront Ethan, he'll deny everything. If you cause a scene, they'll erase all the evidence. And the person in danger will be you. I was frozen, but I can't bear it. Mr. Davis sighed. I know. But sometimes you have to take one step back to take 3 steps forward. You must stay calm. This pen is valuable, but it's not enough to take them down if you act rashly. He opened a cabinet, handed me a flash drive with the data copied onto it, and added, from now on, guard this evidence with your life. Go home and act normal. If you need to cry, lock yourself in a room and cry. But when you're outside that room, you smile. I clutched the small drive in my hand. It felt as heavy as a stone. I stood up, my legs so weak I almost buckled. Mr. Davis steadied me. His voice choked with emotion. Catherine, your parents helped me once. I can't just watch you walk into a trap. I nodded, but no tears came. I just felt something inside me die. The woman who, just last night, believed in happiness was gone. The person walking out of that basement security room was a different Catherine, colder, clearer, and acutely aware that from this moment on, I could no longer afford to be naive. That is, walking out of the venue, the New York sun was as golden as ever, but I felt like I had just passed through a bitter cold front. My hand clutched the small bag containing the evidence as if it were a lifeline. I called a car and sat in the back, my mind a complete blank. The car got stuck in traffic, horns blaring all around me. Yet I could still hear every word from the recording as if it were playing on a loop in my head. Asterisk medicine. Paperwork. Ruin her credibility. Power of attorney. Traffic accident. Asterisk. I dug my nails into the strap of my bag, not even feeling the pain. People say that when the pain is too great, you go numb. That's exactly what I was then. Numb. So I wouldn't break down. When I got back to the apartment, the first thing I heard was the clinking of dishes and the fragrant smell of fried onions, a trap scented with perfume. Ethan was in the kitchen wearing an apron, his hair still damp from a shower. He turned and smiled. "You're back? I thought you were sleeping in." I looked at that smile, and my stomach churned, but I managed to force a faint smile of my own. I went out to buy a few things, and I stopped by my old place to pick up some files I forgot. Ethan walked over, reaching for my bag. "Let me get that for you." I instinctively pulled it back. It was only for a second, but to me, that second was a blaring alarm. I immediately changed my tone, feigning casualness. "Oh, it's just little things. What are you cooking? It smells amazing." Ethan either didn't notice or pretended not to. He smiled. "I'm making a pot roast and some mashed potatoes. I heard from Maria you like home-cooked meals." His words sent a shiver down my spine. I couldn't remember ever telling him that. And Maria would never call him without a reason. It meant that all this time, Ethan had been quietly weaving his way into the lives of those around me. I walked into the kitchen, pretending to look at the pot. "Let me help." As I spoke, I scanned the counter, the spice rack, the glasses set out. Mr. Davis's words echoed in my head. Asterisk. Don't let them know. Don't put yourself in a position to be suspected. Asterisk. That lunch was the first time I understood that even the most comforting meal could be sugarcoating a knife. Ethan served me a piece of roast, his voice tender. "Eat up. Rest if you're tired. It's normal to be exhausted the first few days after a wedding." He said it so convincingly that if I hadn't heard the recording, I would have been touched. I nodded and picked up my fork, forcing myself to swallow each bite. My throat felt like it was full of sand. I ate and acted, occasionally smiling, sometimes asking, "How was your meeting with the partner?" Playing the part of a new bride, while silently repeating a lesson from my mother. Asterisk. In life, you can be poor in money, but never be poor in awareness. Asterisk. After we ate, Ethan got up to pour some water, placing a glass in front of me. It was just water, crystal clear, but my hand froze. I looked at the glass and told myself, asterisk, don't panic. Don't act overtly suspicious. Asterisk. I picked up the glass and took the tiniest sip. It tasted normal. I put it down and smiled. "It's so hot today. I was really thirsty." The casual remark saved me from my own fear. Ethan watched me for a beat, then turned to do the dishes. In that single moment, I saw it clearly. His gaze wasn't that of a husband, but of a warden. That afternoon, Ethan told me to take a nap to regain my strength. I went into the bedroom, locked the door, and sank to the floor. Only then did the tears come, hot and silent. I didn't make a sound, just bit my lip and cried. I was afraid that any unusual noise would arouse a suspicion. I thought of my parents, of the family dinners we used to have. My dad would serve me a piece of meat. My mom would remind me to eat slowly. Those simple things were gone, and here I was, in a brand new apartment, having to be on guard against the man I called my husband. Outside, the phone rang. I quickly wiped my tears and opened the door. Ethan was holding the phone out to me. "It's my mom." I took it, my heart clenching. Sharon's voice came through, sweet but firm. "Catherine, dear, are you up? I was thinking you two could come over for dinner, make it feel cozy. If newlyweds just stay cooped up, people will say their mother-in-law doesn't care." I almost laughed at the phrase, people will say. In life, nothing else mattered, but people were always brought out like a whip. I kept my voice soft. "Of course, we'll come over, Sharon." Sharon lowered her voice, as if sharing a secret. "Let me be frank with you. Being a daughter-in-law is all about being reasonable. I know you come from money, but don't let that make you careless with your words around your husband's family. We may not be as wealthy, but that just means you need to be more tactful. I said I understand, but in my head, I heard Megan's voice from the recording. Asterisk all money and no love. Asterisk, Sharon added, as if it were an afterthought. Oh, and I heard from Ethan that you have several properties you manage. That must be a lot of work. You should let Ethan help you with that. Men are better with numbers. I gripped the phone tightly. So, just one day after the wedding, they were already starting. I gave a light laugh. Yes, I'll think about it, Sharon. I'm still trying to organize all the paperwork my parents left behind. I have to be thorough. I can't rush. Sharon hummed in agreement, then delivered her closing line like a final verdict. Yes, being thorough is good, but a husband and wife are one. Don't be too separate, or you'll hurt Ethan's feelings. After hanging up, I stood there, stunned. Asterisk. A husband and wife are one. Asterisk. Normally, that phrase sounds warm, but from Sharon's lips, it felt like a tightening vice. Ethan came over. What did Mom say? I shook my head and smiled. She invited us over for dinner. He put his arm around me. Good. Let's go. It'll make her happy. I looked at the arm on my shoulder and remembered the line from the recording. Asterisk. I just need to ruin her credibility. Asterisk. This arm could embrace, but it could also strangle. That night, while Ethan was on a call on the balcony, I quietly opened the cabinets and found all the supplements, vitamins, herbal teas, and powders. I gathered them all and put them in a separate corner. I didn't throw them away. I didn't want to raise suspicion. I just memorized each name, each label, each scent. I silently recited a vow to myself. Part nursery rhyme, part oath, asterisk. Do good and good will come to you times is only true when you know how to avoid evil. If you just blindly trust, doing good is sometimes just offering yourself up to the wicked. That night, I lay beside Ethan, unable to sleep. He breathed evenly, one arm casually draped over my stomach, as if holding a familiar object. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the air conditioner. My heart is cold as well water. They call it sharing a bed, but dreaming different dreams. I never thought I'd be lying next to my husband, praying for morning to come so I could run. The next morning, Ethan continued to play the perfect newlywed husband. He made coffee, brought it to me, and said softly, "Don't overthink things. I'm a bit busy today. You just rest at home." I nodded, smiling as required, but my mind was already made up. I had to see my cousin, Adam. Adam was my mother's nephew. When my parents were alive, he was already working as a corporate lawyer for a bank. He was a man of few words, but every word he spoke was solid. My father used to say, "Adam looks gentle, but he's tough as nails." With him around, we don't have to worry about legal matters. I had always tried not to burden relatives, shouldering everything myself. But now, I knew I couldn't do it alone anymore. I chose a discreet approach. No long texts. I made one call, feigning a casual tone. "Adam, are you free? I need to stop by for a minute. It's a family matter." He replied succinctly. "Come now. Don't bring anyone with you." I told Ethan I was going out to buy some specialty ingredients to cook a dish his family liked. Hearing the words "a dish his family liked," Ethan smiled with satisfaction, patting my shoulder. "My wife is so thoughtful. I can rest easy." I heard him, my throat tight, but I just nodded. Yes. I took a car straight to Adam's office in a secure building. As I stepped out of the elevator, he was already waiting in the hallway, dressed in a crisp white shirt, his expression neutral, but his eyes sharp and observant. He led me into his office, drew the blinds, closed the door, and only then asked, "What's wrong, Kate? Tell me everything." I took the small bag out and placed it on the desk. My hand trembled slightly, not because I was afraid of him, but because I was afraid that saying it all out loud would make it all too real. I told him everything, keeping it brief and to the point. Mr. Davis's call, the recording pen, the security footage, and the conversation between Ethan and Megan. I didn't embellish with my emotions. I recited the facts like I was giving a statement, because I was afraid if I let myself soften, I would break down. Adam listened without interrupting. Only when I started to play the audio file did he hold up his hand. "That's enough. Turn it off." He stood up, paced a few steps, then turned back to me, his voice low and cold. "Kate, this isn't just an affair. This is a premeditated plan for misappropriation of assets, with signs of endangerment and potentially leading to a threat to your life." I swallowed hard. "But what do I do so they don't hurt me?" He looked me straight in the eye. "First, You need to remember one thing. They've built a multi-layered trap, so we have to dismantle it in multiple layers. Don't be rash. Being rash is a death sentence. He pulled up a chair and began to analyze the situation like someone untangling a knotted mess of thread. Regarding the assets, most are in your name and tied up with financial institutions, so Ethan can't just take them. To get to them, he needs to do one of two things. 1. You voluntarily sign a power of attorney. 2. He frames you as mentally incompetent or not sound of mind to manage your affairs. Therefore, his number one objective is to destroy your mental credibility. I listened, a chill running down my spine. He continued, laying out each point clearly. From now until we have enough evidence, here's what you do. 1. Do not, under any circumstances, sign any documents related to assets, banks, company shares, or properties, no matter how persuasively Ethan talks. 2. Do not consume anything he forces on you if you can't control the situation. If you must, take a tiny sip, then find a way to dispose of the rest later. Don't let him get suspicious. 3. Keep everything. The boxes, the powder packets, the pills, the herbal teas, anything he gives you. Don't throw them out. Don't make a scene. Just collect them and bag them securely. 4. I will arrange for you to have an independent toxicology screening at a discreet location. If there's any foreign substance in your system, that's powerful evidence. 5. You need a separate line of communication, a new email address, a secure cloud storage account, and you must never log into your personal accounts from a computer or Wi-Fi network that Ethan controls. I stared at him, stunned. All these years, I thought I was smart, that I knew how to take care of myself. But in the face of a calculated predator, I was as naive as a baby bird. I asked softly, what about his family? His mother and sister? Do you think they know? Adam frowned. They might not know the whole plan, but they're on the same side when it comes to the benefits. In families like that, sometimes they don't need to know what their son is doing, as long as they know where the money is flowing. You have to understand, you're isolated. You must maintain a polite facade, but your mind has to be sharp. I gave a bitter, self-deprecating laugh, and I thought getting married meant having a home. Adam looked at me for a second, his voice softening. A home is where people love you. A place where they're sizing you up is just a place you're temporarily standing. Don't confuse the two. That one sentence was like a splash of cold water on the most vulnerable part of me. I felt both ashamed and awakened. I asked again, trying to keep my voice from shaking. If I do what you say, can we bring them to justice? Adam nodded. We can. But you have to be patient. You knew his face, but not his heart. Now that you know his heart, you have to know the right way to act. I will help you build a legal firewall. Your job is to keep yourself safe. He took a piece of paper and jotted down a few notes, like a to-do list, then pushed it toward me. Go home and live normally. Smile when you can, endure when you have to. But remember, everything you endure is to gather evidence. Enduring isn't weakness. It's enduring to win. I took the paper, my hands shaking even more. As I stood up to leave, Adam called me back, speaking slowly. Kate, if you notice any strange symptoms, dizziness, trembling hands, drowsiness, memory lapses, you have to tell me immediately. Don't hide it. Don't let your pride get in the way. Pride is the cheapest trap people use to keep you silent. I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. But this time, it wasn't from fear. It was because I knew I now had a path forward. I walked out of the building, the sun beating down, hot and oppressive. Yet, inside me, a small light had ignited. I was no longer a bride who believed in sweet words. I was Catherine, a woman learning how to protect herself, her honor, and her very life with clear-eyed vigilance. I got back to the apartment as the sky was turning to dusk. Ethan was in the living room, on his phone, smiling as if he were closing a deal. The moment he heard the door, he looked up, his smile instantly transforming into the newlywed husband version. You're back? What took you so long to buy kitchen supplies? I set my bag down and sighed softly. Traffic was terrible. I stopped by the market to get some fish and vegetables. I want to cook something nice for your mom's dinner tomorrow. Ethan looked at me for a second, his eyes measuring whether I was telling the truth. Then he nodded. Good. My wife is so thoughtful. My mom will like that. The word thoughtful now felt like a label stuck to my forehead. I gave a small smile and went straight to the kitchen to wash my hands. In my mind, I remembered Adam's every instruction, especially the one about not giving myself away. I knew that from now on, Every word I spoke had to fit the role of a wife and a daughter-in-law, without revealing my defenses. That evening, Ethan cooked. He made a spread of classic comfort food: meatloaf, roasted vegetables, and a creamy tomato soup. He even put on soft music, as if trying to turn the apartment into a sanctuary. I watched him, a bitter taste in my mouth. A mouth full of honey, a heart full of knives. After dinner, Ethan washed the dishes while I wiped the table. Just then, he opened a cabinet and took out a can of protein powder and a small jar labeled Sweet Dreams. He turned to me, his voice full of concern. I asked around. Women often have trouble sleeping and feel exhausted after the wedding. This will help you sleep better and wake up without a headache. I froze, not because of the powder, but because the way he said it was a perfect match to the script I'd heard in the recording. My heart skipped a beat, but my face remained calm. I'm not having trouble sleeping. Ethan smiled. You might not say it, but I know you hide it when you're tired. It won't hurt to try. Let me make you some. He didn't wait for an answer, already getting a glass and a spoon, his movements fluid as if he'd rehearsed them. I watched his every move, opening the can, scooping the powder, adding warm water. The sweet, milky scent filled the air, so fragrant it felt fake. I remembered Adam's words. Asterisk. If you must, take a tiny sip and keep everything. Asterisk. Ethan brought the glass to me, his eyes fixed on mine. Drink up? I took the glass, my hand trembling slightly, but I quickly covered it with a laugh. You're treating me like a child. Ethan replied instantly. A child needs to be cherished. I brought the glass to my lips and took the smallest sip. It was sweet, slightly creamy. I forced myself to swallow, then put the glass down, pretending to fan myself. Let me drink it slowly. It's a bit warm. Ethan pulled up a chair and sat opposite me, his eyes never leaving my face. Okay, but finish it. I nodded, my mind racing. How could I get rid of the rest without him noticing? I stood up. I'm just going to change. I'll finish it when I come out. Ethan frowned slightly. Why change now? I smiled faintly. I feel all sticky and uncomfortable. I took the glass and walked into the bathroom, locking the door. The moment it clicked shut, I let out a sharp breath. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. I looked at the milky drink as if it were a beautiful but venomous creature. I poured most of it down the toilet and flushed. I rinsed the glass quickly to get rid of the smell. But I didn't forget the most important part: the can and the jar. I noted their exact position in the cabinet, determined to collect them later. I walked out, my expression normal. Ethan looked at me. Finished? I held up the empty glass and smiled. All gone. He looked at the glass, then at my lips, and nodded. Good. Get some sleep. I got into bed. The lights went out. Ethan lay beside me, his hand resting on my shoulder, as if guarding a piece of property. I closed my eyes, but a thin thread of fear kept me awake. I told myself, asterisk, stay sharp, stay sharp, asterisk. But perhaps I had sipped more than I should have. In the middle of the night, I woke with a jolt, my heart pounding, my head spinning as if I were drunk. My body alternated between hot flashes and cold chills. My hands were trembling so badly I couldn't even hold my phone. I sat up, leaning against the headboard, trying to control my breathing. Ethan stirred and sat up immediately, as if he'd been waiting. What's wrong? Are you in pain? I looked at him in the darkness. His eyes were a mixture of concern and a bright glint, the glint of someone seeing their plan work perfectly. I whispered, I'm a little dizzy. He immediately turned on the light and rushed out to get water, his voice frantic. I told you that you were exhausted. Here, drink this. I'm calling a doctor tomorrow. Hearing the word doctor, a chill went down my spine. I shook my head weakly. No need. It's probably just lack of sleep. Ethan sat down beside me, gripping my hand tightly. No, I'm worried. If something happens to you, my mother will kill me. The mention of his mother was used like a shackle. I feigned exhaustion and nodded just to end the conversation. Inside, only one thought remained. I had to tell Adam in the morning. The next morning, just as scripted, Ethan had Dr. Evans come to the apartment. The doctor was dressed in a button-down shirt and glasses, and he spoke in a gentle, reassuring tone. You're a newlywed, dealing with a new environment and psychological pressure. It's common to experience sleep disturbances and anxiety. You should limit your work, especially handling important documents. You need to rest and relax. I lay on the sofa with my eyes half closed, playing the part of an exhausted patient. but I watched him closely. Doctor. Evans spoke in generalities, avoided specific questions, and kept glancing at Ethan as if for cues. I knew he was a link in their chain. As soon as the doctor left, Ethan turned to me, his voice as smooth as silk. See? I was right. From now on, you let me handle the paperwork. You just focus on getting well. I murmured in agreement, fighting back a wave of nausea. That afternoon, when Ethan went out for work, I immediately called Adam on the secure line we'd agreed on. I kept it brief. Adam, I sipped the drink last night. I had trembling hands and heart palpitations. This morning, Dr. Evans came and said exactly what we expected. Adam's reply was curt. This afternoon, I'm sending someone to pick you up for the toxicology screen. Go alone. Don't let him know. I hung up, my heart racing, but this time with resolve. I searched the kitchen cabinet, found the protein can and the Sweet Dreams jar, put them in a plastic bag, and hid them at the bottom of a small suitcase. I also kept the glass I had used, wiping the outside but not washing the inside rim too thoroughly, just as Adam had instructed, to preserve as much evidence as possible. That afternoon, I called a car, telling Ethan I was going to buy some things for his mother. I acted like a normal person, but inside, it felt like an escape. At the lab Adam had arranged, I went through all the necessary steps, not mentioning Ethan's name, only saying I suspected I was being given sedatives disguised as supplements. As they drew my blood, I watched the red liquid fill the vial and thought, asterisk, as long as my blood is warm, I still have a chance. Asterisk. A few hours later, Adam called back, his voice grim. Catherine. They found traces of a benzodiazepine-class sedative and a low-level psychotropic agent. It's not a heavy dose, but it's enough to prove it's being administered to you, cyclically. I sat in silence, my ears ringing. A cold rage began to build in my stomach. So it wasn't a gut feeling. It wasn't my imagination. It wasn't me being paranoid. I was being poisoned. I clutched the lab report in my hand. The paper was thin, but it felt as heavy as a rock. I knew that from this moment, there was no turning back. Either I would win, or I would be turned into a shadow of myself in my own life. The lab report in my bag felt like a hot coal burning, and not to be seen by anyone. I returned home as dusk settled, forcing myself to wear the face of a slightly weary new bride as I walked into the apartment. Ethan was sitting on the couch, looking at his phone. He stood up the moment he saw me, his voice dripping with honey. You went shopping for my mom? Are you tired? I nodded, offering a weak smile. I'm okay. Just a little dizzy. A flicker of something satisfaction flashed in Ethan's eyes, like a trapper checking to see if the snare had closed. He didn't ask more, just took the shopping bags from my hands, led me to the sofa, and started rubbing my shoulders. From now on, don't worry about a thing. I'm here for you. Hearing that, I almost laughed out loud. Asterisk. I'm here for you. Asterisk. It didn't mean someone was here to love me. It meant someone was here to watch me. But I sat still, even letting out a soft sigh, playing the part of an exhausted woman. I remembered Adam's words. Asterisk. Enduring isn't weakness. It's enduring to win. Asterisk. That evening, Ethan once again prepared the health drink. I didn't show any fear. I took a sip, then pretended to forget the glass on the TV stand. When I went back for it, I accidentally knocked it over into a potted plant. As I cleaned it up, I murmured, I'm so clumsy, barely married, and I'm already breaking things. Ethan looked at me with a gentle smile. It's okay. Just go rest. Don't push yourself. The words "don't push yourself" sent a chill through me. I knew he meant, asterisk, don't push yourself to stay lucid, so I can easily push you the rest of the way. Asterisk. The next morning, I began to act in earnest, but on my own terms. I intentionally mixed up the house keys. I opened the refrigerator, stared blankly for a moment, then closed it, as if I'd forgotten what I was looking for. I called Maria and asked, Maria, what day is it today? Maria, understanding, played along perfectly. It's Tuesday, dear. Have you had breakfast? I made a sound of dawning realization, then hung up. Ethan witnessed it all. He didn't scold me. On the contrary, he was as gentle as could be. You see? You really are tired. I told you. You need to rest. I looked at him, forcing my eyes to hold the vacant expression of someone utterly drained. Inside, my mind was as clear and cold as ice. He was buying it. That afternoon, Sharon called. As soon as I answered, she started in with her syrupy voice. Catherine, dear? How are you feeling? Ethan told me you've been dizzy and forgetful. I paused, then answered in a faint, listless tone. Yes, I'm a bit tired, Sharon. Sharon clicked her tongue. Goodness, a girl from a wealthy family is probably used to a life of ease. So your stamina is low. It's hard being a wife if you're so fragile. But let me give you some advice. Don't burden yourself with company business, with paperwork. When a woman is too busy, her mind gets muddled. You might sign something by mistake, and that would be a terrible thing. The phrase "signed something by mistake" made me want to grind my teeth. She spoke as if she were worried about me, but she was really just clearing the path for her son to take control. I feigned confusion. You're right. My papers are a mess. I don't even remember where I put them. Sharon immediately seized the opening. Well, then you really should let Ethan handle it. A husband and wife are one. Why tire yourself out holding on to it all? After we hung up, I sat in silence for a moment, then took out a piece of paper and wrote a single sentence. Asterisk mother-in-law is on their side. Asterisk. Not because she knew the whole truth, but because she had chosen to side with profit, with her son, before siding with what was right. That evening, Ethan drove me to his family's house for dinner. I knew I was walking into a place where words could kill you, and they would call it guidance. The dinner was a fragrant spread of home-cooked food. Jessica sat across from me, picking at her food while studying me like a specimen. Sharon served me a piece of fish, smiling. Eat up, dear. A new daughter-in-law needs her strength to give us grandchildren. I smiled and nodded. Jessica suddenly dropped a seemingly innocent comment. Is it true you've been really forgetful, Kate? The other day you texted me, then asked me the exact same thing again. I thought you were joking. I looked at Jessica, pretending to be flustered. Oh, did I? I don't remember. Jessica shrugged with a smirk. You probably work too much. But if you're that forgetful, you should be careful not to sign the wrong papers. Good thing you have, Ethan. He's so meticulous. Her words were a needle dipped in sugar. Sharon immediately chimed in. That's right. A woman's mind can get cluttered. It's better to let her husband handle things. Don't be too proud. Ethan, sitting beside me, feigned a pained expression. Mom is just saying that because she cares about you. Don't take it the wrong way. I lowered my head and whispered my agreement. Inside, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff. The only difference was, this time I knew who was pushing. The terrifying part wasn't them saying sign this, but how they were twisting the act of signing into the moral duty of a wife and daughter-in-law. Not signing would make me divisive, selfish, unreasonable. The dinner grew more suffocating. I deliberately dropped my fork and fumbled around under the table, muttering, "Where did it go?" Jessica looked at me with an expression of pitying amusement. Sharon sighed dramatically. See, it's only been a few weeks. Catherine, dear, a woman's mental health is so important. I looked up, my eyes deliberately unfocused. Yes. Ethan placed a hand on my back, patting it gently as one would a child. Don't worry. I'm here. I heard that phrase again and understood the most bitter truth. The weaker I appeared, the kinder he became. His kindness wasn't love. It was a strategy. On the way home, Ethan spoke in a solicitous tone. You shouldn't go out so much. Just rest at home. Tomorrow, I'll organize your paperwork for you, so you don't get confused. I nodded, silent. A single thought was crystal clear in my mind. From this dinner forward, I was no longer fighting a cheating husband. I was standing in the middle of a family that had smelled money and was ready to use tradition and family values to bind me. I had wanted peace, but they wouldn't allow it. And so, I could no longer afford to be gentle and naive. That kind of gentleness was just self-sacrifice. After the dinner at my in-laws' house, I felt bruised, as if I'd been physically assaulted. It wasn't physical pain, but the ache of being treated like a piece of property that the family was meeting to divide. Yet I had to keep acting, playing the role of the weak daughter-in-law and the forgetful wife to make them lower their guard. The next morning, Ethan woke up early, made me coffee, and laid out a stack of papers on the table. He spoke as softly as the breeze. I printed these out for you. A list of the properties, lease agreements, and payment schedules, just to help you keep things straight. I looked at the papers, my heart constricting. He was moving forward, step by clever step, not demanding the documents outright, but starting with helping me keep things straight. I feigned a dazed look, running my hand over the pages. Wow, that's a lot. Just looking at it makes my head spin. Ethan pulled his chair closer, his voice patient. That's why you're so confused. Let me hold on to them for you. You just tell me what payments come in each month, and I'll handle the rest. I gave a weak smile. Hold on to them? How? His reply was smooth. To manage them for you. We're husband and wife. What's yours is mine. I'm looking out for you, not taking anything from you. I nodded vaguely, as if I understood but not quite, remembering Adam's advice. Asterisk. Don't react strongly, or you'll give yourself away. Asterisk. I gently pushed the stack of papers toward Ethan and said absently, I'm just afraid I'll sign something wrong. I'm so forgetful. Ethan smiled, as if I'd just confirmed the very weakness he wanted me to have. That's why I'm saying I'll handle it. You won't have to sign anything. I'll guide you when it's necessary. The phrase when it's necessary sent a chill down my spine. He was preparing for that moment. I changed the subject. Okay, let me rest first. My head feels so heavy. I stood up and went to the bedroom, pretending to lie down. Less than an hour later, Sharon video called. The moment I answered, she scrutinized my face. Good heavens, you look so pale. To be like this right after getting married. People will say this family doesn't know how to care for a daughter-in-law. I smiled, my voice listless. I'm just a little dizzy, Sharon. Sharon tutted. A woman's mind. If it gets muddled, everything falls apart. Let me be frank, don't you worry about paperwork. The more you have, the more you have to protect. And the best way to protect it is to entrust it to your husband. He's your husband. Who else would you trust? I asked very softly. But if I give them to him, I'm afraid I'll forget what's what. Sharon replied instantly, as if from a script. So what if you forget? The important thing is that someone is in charge of the family's finances. If a woman is too strong, it wounds a man's pride. Don't let Ethan feel that way. The man's pride argument was brought out again, like a whip. I just said okay, and ended the call quickly, claiming to be tired. The second I hung up, a text from Jessica came through, as if she'd been sitting right next to her mother. Asterisk Kate. Get some rest. Oh, quick question. You have that commercial space on Madison Avenue, right? If you let me borrow it to open a cosmetic shop, I can pay a little rent. We're family, after all. Asterisk. I looked at the text and wanted to laugh. Asterisk borrow it. Asterisk. The rent for a space in that area was astronomical. Her little rent meant taking my property to do herself a favor. I replied with a short, tired-sounding message. Asterisk. Let me feel better first, and we can talk. My head is too messy right now. Asterisk. Jessica texted back immediately. Asterisk. If your head is messy, just give it to Ethan to manage. We're family. We'll take care of you. Asterisk. That phrase, we're family, was like a brand. I was the outsider, but my money was family property. I sighed, telling myself to just let them talk. The more they talked, the more I knew what they wanted. That afternoon, Ethan came home with a bag of Gifts Bird's Nest soup, health supplements, and another bottle of Sweet Dreams vitamins. He placed them on the table. I bought you some more. Dr. Evans said you need to be consistent. I pretended to glance at them without reading the labels carefully, just nodding before putting them away. But I didn't forget. I saved the boxes, took photos of the labels, and recorded the date and time in a small notebook hidden at the bottom of a drawer. I no longer trusted my memory. I trusted black and white. That night, Adam sent me a single, curt message. Asterisk Kate. See me tomorrow afternoon. I have results. Asterisk I simply replied times. Okay. Asterisk not wanting to write more. Afraid my phone might be checked. The next day, under the pretext of buying things for a family dinner, I went out to meet Adam at a quiet coffee shop. He was already there, his expression serious. As soon as I sat down, he passed me a folder of photocopied documents. I had someone run a financial background check on Ethan. His company isn't what he claims. It's deep in bad debt, negative cash flow, and has multiple short-term loans. Most importantly, he's borrowed from a loan shark. I swallowed hard. How much, Adam? Adam looked at me, speaking slowly as if afraid I might collapse. Around $1.26 million. The creditor is a high-interest lender, a guy they call Leo the Scar Romano. The interest is compounding daily. The final deadline to pay is in a few weeks. Hearing a few weeks, my hands went cold. So Ethan's urgency wasn't out of love for me. It was because a debt clock was ticking down. No wonder he wanted me to sign so quickly. No wonder he'd mentioned a traffic accident in the recording. When cornered, a desperate man will do desperate things. Adam continued, his voice low. Kate, from now on, you have to understand. He's not just greedy, he's desperate. Desperate at all costs. And a desperate man is a very dangerous one. You must stick to the plan. I sat in silence, staring at the glass of water in front of me. It was clear, but my heart felt murky. I remembered an old saying, gambling is the father of ruin. Maybe Ethan didn't gamble, but his reckless business deals and borrowing from loan sharks was another form of digging his own grave. And now, he wanted to pull me into it with him. I looked up at Adam, my voice hoarse. So, what's the next step? Adam's reply was concise. Continue to act. Continue to gather evidence. But from now on, you must prepare for him to accelerate his plan. When a man's debt is due, his patience will run out. I nodded. At that moment, only one thought was clear in my mind. I knew the number, the motive, and the level of his desperation. I couldn't afford to be slow. Walking out of the coffee shop, the midday sun beat down, hot enough to sting my skin. I pulled up my mask, feeling like I was at a crossroads. On one side was enduring to win. On the other, enduring too long and ending up dead. I knew my time was now being counted down. After meeting with Adam, I returned home with a knot in my stomach. The $1.26 million wasn't just a debt. It was a ticking clock hanging over my head. I knew Ethan would no longer have the patience to play the long game of let me help you. A man hounded by creditors will do reckless things, especially when he feels his prize slipping through his fingers. Ethan kept up his act, but with more intensity. That night, he placed his hand on my forehead, asking in a clinical tone, "Are you feeling better today? Still dizzy?" I nodded vaguely, pretending to be half asleep. He watched me for a longer moment than usual before turning away. I heard him on the phone on the balcony, his voice low and tense. I couldn't make out the words, just fragments. Urgent. This week. Wait. Those words sent a chill down my spine. A couple of days later, Ethan announced an important client event, saying he needed to maintain a good image. He dressed in an expensive shirt, his cologne stronger than usual. Before he left, he even arranged for Maria to come over to look after me, a gesture framed as kindness, but which I knew was another layer of control. Maria looked at me with a flicker of worry in her eyes, but only said what was necessary. "You rest, dear. I'll make some soup." That night, Ethan came home late. I heard the key fumbling in the lock, the sound of his shoe kicking a table leg. He was drunk, reeking of alcohol, his face flushed. But his drunkenness reminded me of an old saying. A drunk man tells the truth. A man drunk on greed does reckless things. I didn't know which category Ethan fell into, but I knew tonight might be my only chance to find what he was hiding. I waited until he stumbled into the bedroom and collapsed onto the bed, muttering incoherently. I pretended to be asleep, my breathing even. After a while, a soft snore began. Still, I didn't move immediately. I counted to 200 in my head. Only when I was sure he was deeply asleep did I sit up, my heart pounding like a drum. I remembered something. Once, when Ethan was watering the plants on the balcony, I'd seen him bend down to the large snake plant near the door and reach underneath the pot as if retrieving something. I hadn't thought anything of it then, but now I realized the most well-hidden things are often in the most overlooked places. I tiptoed out to the balcony, my bare feet silent on the cold tiles. The streetlights cast long shadows. I knelt by the snake plant and felt underneath. Just as I suspected, there was a small key wrapped in a plastic bag. I held it, my hands trembling with both fear and a cold resolve. I was walking into the lion's den. Ethan's home office was at the end of the hall, the door always locked. I inserted the key. The soft click time sounded like a thunderclap in my ears. I cracked the door open and glanced back toward the bedroom. Ethan was still. I slipped inside. The room smelled of paper and wood polish. On the desk sat his laptop, a lamp, and several files. I had no time to search aimlessly. I had to be fast but methodical. Adam had told me, asterisk, get what you need. Don't get greedy. Asterisk, I took a breath and opened the laptop. The password. I tried his birthday. It opened instantly. I felt a bitter laugh rise in my throat. The man plotting to trap others was too lazy to change his own password. Or perhaps he thought I was too far gone to even try. The screen showed his email inbox. I quickly typed in keywords based on instinct. Asterisk power of attorney, investment, Megan, Leo, loan. Asterisk. My heart leaped as a series of emails and attachments appeared. I opened a PDF, a draft of a power of attorney for asset management. The wording was clever, full of phrases like for the convenience of investment, to support my wife during her period of ill health. The beneficiary, Ethan Vance. I clenched my jaw, took a photo of the screen with my phone, and another of a note in the file about documenting my health status as a legal pretext. I opened another email chain with Megan. The subject lines were innocuous, but the content was chilling. Asterisk. Push the medical evaluation. If she's still lucid, increase the dose. Mom is starting to believe it. Asterisk. There was even a message from Megan. Asterisk. Don't let her see her family. She has a lawyer cousin at a bank. Be careful. Asterisk. Reading that, my blood ran cold. So they weren't just plotting. They were monitoring who was around me. I bit my lip and photographed everything. I found another scanned file. A loan agreement. The lender wasn't named Leo, the Scar Romano, but there was a signature, an exorbitant interest rate, penalty clauses, and a handwritten note. Asterisk. Per Leo. Asterisk. The amount made my head swim. $1,260,000. I stared at the number and could practically hear the countdown clock in my head. I kept searching and found transaction records, strange transfers through intermediary accounts, and, most damningly, a file with an innocent name. Asterisk Q4 plan asterisk. Inside was a checklist-style timeline. Asterisk week 1. Stabilize psychologically. Introduce low dose. Asterisk week 2. Medical evaluation. Guide toward anxiety diagnosis. Asterisk week 3. Propose signing of power of attorney. Asterisk week 4. Gala. Finalize. I felt sick. Evil, when written down, is no longer a feeling. It's a plan, and a plan is 100 times more terrifying than a rumor. I was snapping photos and quickly uploading them to the secure email address. Adam had set up nothing saved on my phone. No trace left behind. I worked so fast I forgot to breathe. Just then, I heard a faint noise from the hallway. The sound of unsteady, stumbling footsteps heading toward the office. My heart dropped to my feet. I instantly blanked the laptop screen, my hand shaking so much the mouse slipped. I heard the doorknob turn. The office door swung open. Ethan stood there, his hair messy, his eyes bleary from alcohol, but his gaze was sharper than I expected. He saw the lit desk lamp, saw me standing by his desk. "What are you doing in here?" Just 5 words, but they cut like a knife. I knew if I stood there and tried to explain, I was done. A man like Ethan only needed a flicker of suspicion to change his plan, or worse, to act immediately. In a split second, I chose the only thing that could save me. I acted. I clutched my head and backed away, my eyes wide and frantic. I don't know how I got here. I was looking for something. I forced my voice to tremble and break, like someone waking from a trance. Ethan frowned and stepped closer. "What were you doing in my office? Who let you in?" I shook my head violently, tears welling up at the perfect moment, half real, half fake, because I was genuinely terrified. "I don't remember. I saw the door. I thought it was the bathroom. I'm scared. I'm so scared." I broke down into childlike sobs. Ethan paused. I could see him weighing it, suspicion or belief. Then his expression softened, not out of pity, but because he was seeing exactly what he wanted to see. Me, losing control. He sighed and pulled me into an embrace. It's okay. You forgot again, didn't you? You can't just wander around like this. It's dangerous." I sobbed into his shirt, clinging to him like a truly helpless person. Inside, I thought only one thing. Asterisk, I got away with it. Asterisk. He led me out of the office, immediately locking the door behind him, and muttered under his breath, "The medicine is really working." He said it so quietly, but I heard every word. It chilled me to the bone. He put me to bed, tucking me in like a child. "Go to sleep. I'll take you back to the doctor tomorrow." I nodded, pretending to be utterly exhausted. As Ethan turned off the light and lay down, I closed my eyes, but my mind was on fire. I had just gotten what I needed, but I also knew one more thing. From this night on, Ethan's grip would tighten. The prey he thought was docile had just appeared in his den. Even if he believed my act, a predator's instinct is to be wary. I lay still, listening to his breathing, and understood that the game had just entered a much more dangerous round. After the night I wandered into his office. Ethan said nothing more about it, but the way he looked at me changed. He was still gentle, still called me honey, still stroked my hair like he was soothing a child. But that gentleness now felt like a soft cord wrapping around my neck slowly, so the victim doesn't struggle. The next morning, he stayed home more. His phone was always with him. The office door remained locked. and the spare key was gone from under the plant pot. Even the kitchen cabinets were reorganized, with the supplement containers lined up neatly, as if with intent. I saw it and smirked to myself. A person afraid of being exposed often becomes unnaturally tidy. I kept up my act. I'd pretend to forget simple tasks, ask the same question twice. But I was careful not to overdo it. As the old saying goes, a string pulled too tight will snap. I had to create just enough tension for them to believe me without becoming suspicious. Around noon, Maria came over. She brought me a bowl of chicken soup, setting it on the table and whispering, "Eat something. Dear, you need your strength." I nodded, and as Ethan stepped onto the balcony to take a call, I leaned close to her and murmured just 2 words. "Megan's coming." Maria didn't ask why. She just gave a slight nod. We had reached a silent understanding. A woman who has seen enough of the world knows when to ask questions and when to stay quiet to protect her own. And she was right. About an hour later, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Megan standing there, holding an expensive box of bird's nest soup tied with a ribbon. She wore a tasteful dress, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup light. She looked at me with an expression of such profound sorrow, as if she were the one suffering the most for my sake. "Oh, Kate, what's happened to you? I heard from Ethan that you've been so unwell." She walked in without waiting for an invitation, her familiarity making me want to both laugh and recoil. Back when we were close, I never noticed. Now, I saw that some people enter your house in slippers but walk into your life with a knife. I forced a weak smile, my hands trembling just enough. I don't know what's wrong with me. My head is always spinning. Megan placed the box on the table and gripped my hands tightly. "I feel so terrible for you. It's so hard for a newlywed to go through this. I brought you some soup. You have to eat to get stronger. This brand is the best. If you have it regularly, you'll sleep well, and your mind will clear up." Hearing the word "sleep well," I felt a wave of nausea, but I let her lead me to the sofa. Megan's eyes darted around the apartment, her mouth full of concerned questions, but her gaze was scanning everything, as if assessing the situation, checking if I had truly lost control. Maria came out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel, her voice neutral. "Megan, you're here for a visit?" Megan smiled sweetly. "Yes, Maria. I came to see Kate. I was so worried." Maria just nodded, saying nothing more. She was a woman of few words, but the look she gave Megan was enough to steady me. Megan sat close to me, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Kate, I'm serious. You need to see a good psychiatrist. A lot of people develop postnuptial anxiety. I know a highly respected one, a mental health specialist. He's very gentle. If you get checked out now, it's manageable. But if you wait, it could become a real illness." The words mental health specialist landed like a hammer, though she said them softly. I feigned fear, my eyes wide. "A psychiatrist?" Megan stroked my hand, her gentleness sickening. "It's not like you're crazy, Kate. It's just anxiety. But you need to have a medical file, a doctor monitoring you for peace of mind. With you being so forgetful, what if you sign the wrong papers? I'm telling you this because I care about you." I lowered my head like a frightened, weak person, but inside, my mind was sharp. She was revealing their goal, a medical file. Every word she said, if recorded, would become another knot in their own noose. I pretended to tremble as I reached for a glass of water, then accidentally dropped it. Water splashed across the floor. Megan jumped up. "Oh my God, Kate, let me get that." "You just sit still." I shook my head slightly. "I'm so clumsy. My hands just keep shaking." Megan looked at my trembling hands, a quick flash of satisfaction in her eyes. She turned to the kitchen. "Maria, can I get a towel? And I'll heat up the soup for Kate while I'm at it." Maria handed her a towel, her voice even. "Go ahead." Megan walked into the kitchen. This was the moment I was waiting for. I had staged the water spill to give her a reason to prepare food for me herself. The security camera in the living room, which Maria had legally installed for theft prevention, had a clear view of Megan entering the kitchen, getting a bowl, opening the soup, heating it, stirring it, and bringing it out. I sat still, my hands clasped in my lap. I didn't need to know what, if anything, Megan added. I just needed the fact. Megan had directly handled my food at a time when I was showing symptoms of being drugged. This link, connected to the lab results, the pill vial, and the texts about increasing the dose, would form a chain. Megan brought the bowl of soup out and placed it in front of me. "Eat it while it's warm, Kate." I looked at the fragrant, steaming soup. My heart as cold as ice. I picked up a spoon, my hand deliberately shaking a little more, and then let the spoon clatter to the floor. Megan sighed as she bent to pick it up. Oh, Kate, you have to be so careful. When you're like this, people can take advantage of you. She said it as if she cared, but taking advantage was exactly what she was doing. I got another spoon, scooped up a tiny bit, brought it to my lips, then stopped, feigning confusion. Why? Why does this taste strange? Megan flinched but recovered instantly. Strange? It's just soup, Kate. I suddenly clutched my stomach and winced. My stomach. It hurts. It must have been the chicken soup I had this morning. I can't eat this. I put the bowl down. I knew that if I swallowed even a little, my body might react. I couldn't take that risk. I just needed a plausible excuse so Megan wouldn't be suspicious. Megan looked at the bowl, a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. She forced a smile. That's okay. You can have it later. Just get some rest. She stayed for a few more minutes, making small talk, then got up to leave. Before she left, she squeezed my hand and said a line that was part advice, part threat. You listen to Ethan, okay? He loves you. Don't try to handle all that paperwork yourself. It's too much for you. I looked at her, my eyes misty, as if in a daze. Okay. The moment the door closed, I stood up, took the bowl of soup, and went straight to the balcony. I didn't pour it down the sink. I was afraid of the smell, the traces. I dumped it into a large planter, ran water over it, then washed the bowl thoroughly and put it back as if nothing had happened. Maria looked at me and said just one thing very quietly. You're strong. I gave a sad smile. Strong? No, Maria. Just surviving. That night, Adam texted me. Asterisk. We have another link. The janitor from the wedding venue kept a crushed pill vial she found. I had it tested. It matches the substance in your blood. Asterisk. I read the message. My heart's sinking. So, it wasn't just the protein powder, not just the vitamins. From the wedding day itself, they had been meticulously preparing to poison me. But there was more. Adam sent another text. Asterisk. I also got the chat logs where they discussed increasing the dose if you weren't docile enough, and mentioned the accident option if it dragged on. Asterisk. I sat there, stunned. The phrase from the recording, asterisk a traffic accident asterisk, came flooding back. I had been scared then. Now, with written confirmation, that fear turned into something else. Rage. I looked around the apartment, at the kitchen, at the dining table where Megan had just played the part of a concerned friend. And I realized a painful truth. They didn't just want my money. They wanted me silent. Silenced by drugs, silenced by a medical file, and if necessary, silenced by an accident. They were all preying on their positions of trust. Megan as my friend, Ethan as my husband, his family under the guise of family. And me? If I didn't rely on my own wits and the law, I would have nothing left to rely on. I stood up, drew the curtains, and sat in the darkest corner of the living room. I didn't cry. I just felt a fire starting to burn. The fire of a woman pushed to the edge, who was no longer willing to be a victim. It was the middle of the month, and a sweltering New York heat wave had settled over the city. I was at home when Ethan announced, "We're going to my mom's for dinner this afternoon. She's invited some of my dad's relatives. We're newlyweds, and if we don't make a proper showing, people will talk." I heard the phrase "people will talk" and gave a dry, internal laugh. People were like a faceless ghost, always present and always holding a whip. I feigned unease. I'm a little tired. Maybe another time? Ethan's tone immediately shifted, soft but unyielding. The more tired you are, the more you need to go, so Mom can see you're being taken care of. If you stay home alone and get all forgetful, I'll worry. The phrase forgetful was tossed out casually, but it was a deliberate cut at my credibility. I nodded, my head bowed like a submissive person. Okay, whatever you think is best. Before we left, he handed me a vitamin and a glass of warm water. Take this, it will help with the dizziness. I didn't refuse. I took a sip, pretended to cough, and excused myself to the bathroom to dispose of it, just as I had before. I was getting used to smiling over my own wounds, so used to it that I started to scare myself. The in-laws' house was crowded, a mix of cooking smells and loud chatter. Sharon, wearing a purple pantsuit and a gold chain, pulled me in by the hand as soon as she saw me. Catherine, you're here. Come, let the aunts and uncles see our new daughter-in-law. I walked in, greeting each person. An aunt from his father's side looked me up and down with a smirk. So this is the rich daughter-in-law? I hear she has a brownstone on the Upper East Side. I gave a polite, noncommittal smile. Hello, Auntie. Another uncle nodded. Ethan is a lucky man. Got himself a smart, well-off wife. The phrase well-off sounded like a compliment, but in this atmosphere, it felt more like an appraisal. Jessica, heavily made up and wearing a new dress, was scrolling on her phone. She looked up and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Kate, sit here. Make sure you eat a lot today. You've been so forgetful lately. Maybe some food will clear your head." I froze for a second before sitting down. Ethan pulled his chair close, placing a proprietary hand on my shoulder. He smiled at everyone. My wife has been a bit under the weather lately, probably just adjusting to married life. I'm planning to take her for another checkup, just to be sure. Sharon immediately clicked her tongue in a show of pity. The poor dear. It's so hard for a woman when her nerves are weak. But don't you worry. Your husband and mother-in-law are here for you. A great aunt chimed in. Well, if she's so unwell, can she still manage her company? A mistake with paperwork could be disastrous. Jessica giggled. That's why Ethan is helping her. I get nervous just thinking about Kate handling documents now. The other day, she texted me asking to borrow something, and 10 minutes later, she asked the exact same thing again. I lowered my head, feigning confusion. Oh, did I? I really don't remember. The relatives looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and pity. That pity was more painful than a direct insult because it smoothly and reasonably painted me as the one with the problem, without anyone looking like the bad guy. Sharon served me a piece of fish, her voice syrupy sweet. Eat up, dear. Get your strength back. And then you can hand things over to your husband. A woman who holds onto too much gets a heavy head. I picked up my spoon, deliberately letting it tremble and clink against the bowl. I feigned clumsiness. I'm so sorry. My hands have been so strange lately. The aunt shook her head. Oh my, like this already? It must be the pressure. Stress can make you sick. Ethan immediately delivered the closing line, his tone as gentle as a doctor's. Yes, I'm worried too. I'm planning to get a medical file started for her. With a doctor's official record, if she forgets things in the future, people will know it's an illness, not just her being careless. Hearing the word file, my blood ran cold. By saying that in front of his relatives, he was planting a narrative. In the future, if I fought back, they would all remember. Asterisk. Oh, that's right. She was sick back then. Asterisk. The dinner continued, feeling more and more like a marketplace where my sanity was being auctioned off. They asked roundabout questions about my family, my properties, my company shares, my bank accounts. Never directly, always couched in concern. Do you have any relatives left on your mother's side? Do you do any charity work? It must be so hard managing a company. Are you planning on having children soon? Each question was a probe. I answered just enough, always avoiding numbers, always using the line, I'm not sure. I'll let my husband handle that. I said it not because it was true, but because I was feeding them the image they wanted to see, to make them careless and reveal more. At the end of the meal, I intentionally picked up the wrong purse. I grabbed Jessica's and feigned confusion. Why is this so heavy? Jessica snatched it back, laughing loudly. Oh my God, Kate, you really have lost it. You even grabbed my bag. The whole table erupted in laughter. The sound was like shattering glass. I laughed along, bowing my head in embarrassment. Inside, I told myself, asterisk, let them laugh. Let them think I'm drowning. Asterisk. When we got home, Ethan handed me a glass of water and told me to rest. I pretended to go take a shower, but instead stood silently behind the bedroom door, listening to him talk to his mother on the phone. Sharon's voice, though faint on speaker, was audible. Her being like this is good. A weak person is easier to control. You need to act fast. If she snaps out of it, we'll have trouble. Ethan replied softly, but I heard him clearly. I know. I'm just waiting for the right moment. Megan said, she has a way to speed things up. Sharon huffed, let Megan handle her part. But you remember, family business stays in the family. I won't have the whole world laughing at us. I stood there, frozen. So, it wasn't that his mother didn't know. She might not have known every detail about the drugs, but she knew enough to make a choice. She chose control. She chose speed. She chose to save face. I went back into the bathroom and turned the shower on full blast to cover the sound of my ragged breathing. The water roared, but inside I felt as dry as a desert. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were still my eyes. My face was still my face. But my gaze had changed. People could take my money if I was a fool. People could take my dignity if I was silent. But once they turned an entire family into a weapon against me, I knew I could no longer just play the part of a madwoman to buy time. I had been weathering the storm long enough. Now, I was preparing to become the storm. Ethan began his final push by framing everything as perfectly normal. That morning, he laid out a dress, a pair of shoes, and a glossy invitation in front of me. His voice was light. "There's a project launch gala this weekend. I want you to come with me. It looks better for partners to see I have a stable family, that my wife supports me. It builds trust." I looked at the invitation. My heart as heavy as lead. Asterisk. Gala asterisk. The exact word from his Times Q4 plan Times file. I maintained my weary facade, asking vaguely, "Why would I go? I'm so forgetful." Ethan pulled a chair close and took my hand, his eyes soft and pleading. "You just have to be there, smile a little. There are just a few confirmation signatures from partners. It's a legal formality to speed things up. You sign, and we go home. It's no big deal." Asterisk. Signatures. Asterisk. Again. I heard the word, and a montage of evidence flashed in my mind. He had chosen his moment. When a predator says it's no big deal, it's usually because he's prepared for the biggest deal of all. I nodded very slowly, like a weak person with no fight left. "Okay, whatever you arrange, I'll do." Ethan smiled, satisfied, and patted my hand like one would a child. "Good girl. That's the wife I need." The moment he turned away, I let out a deep breath. I knew that from this point on, every step had to be calculated. One mistake, and he would change the plan, or worse, act preemptively. I texted Adam on our secure channel. One short line. Asterisk. He's pushing for the gala. Mentioned his signature. Asterisk. Less than 5 minutes later, Adam called, his voice low but firm. "I figured as much. Stay calm. Meet me this afternoon." I used the excuse of going out to buy offerings for a family memorial, a reason an in-law would rarely question. Maria looked at me and nodded slightly, her eyes saying, "Asterisk, go. I'll watch the house." Asterisk, my heart ached as I left. Every trip out felt like passing through another guarded gate. When I met Adam, I gave him everything I had. The photos from the office laptop, the emails, the texts about increasing the dose, the security footage of Megan in the kitchen, the lab results, the pill vial analysis. Adam reviewed each item, then said in a cold, precise tone, "This is enough to file a preliminary criminal complaint and trigger a covert investigation. But we have to do it by the book. We'll have them monitored discreetly. We wait for the act of coercion or fraud to happen times at the gala asterisk. Intervening then will be our strongest move." I asked quietly, "What if they don't make an arrest right away?" Adam replied, "No one gets arrested on suspicion alone. But your file will establish the grounds for surveillance. Do you understand? We don't need them to believe you emotionally. We need them to act based on the paperwork." Hearing this, my trembling eased. I wasn't alone in the dark anymore. I was on a path governed by law and procedure. It might be a cold path, but at least it was real. Adam continued, "Between now and the gala, you must not argue, must not react strongly. You have to play the part of the weary wife even more convincingly. I'll arrange for you to have a legal recording device, a small one you can conceal in your dress or bag. You just have to let them talk. The more they talk, the more you win." I nodded. I told myself, asterisk, "You need clay to make bricks. I have evidence. I can rebuild the wall of my honor they tried to tear down." Asterisk. After leaving Adam, I stopped by to see Mr. Davis. He didn't ask many questions, just looked at me for a long moment and said quietly, "Catherine, be careful. At this stage, they'll get desperate." He handed me a small bag with another backup of the hallway security footage, telling me to keep it safe, just in case. I returned home as night fell. Ethan was in the living room, his phone pressed to his ear, his voice more strained than usual. He saw me and immediately softened his tone, turning to smile. "Where have you been? Are you tired?" I gave a weak answer. "I went to the market to get some things for your mom. I kept forgetting things." Ethan's eyes blinked slowly, as if scanning me. Then he pulled me down to sit. "From now on, don't go out so much. Just stay home until the gala. I'll take care of everything." "Okay," I said. While inside, the countdown continued. The night before the gala, Sharon called. Her voice was no longer sweet. It was as sharp as a knife wrapped in silk. Catherine, tomorrow you will behave yourself when you are with your husband. Don't cause a scene. Let me be clear. A woman who embarrasses her husband in public brings shame on the entire family. I gripped the phone. Yes, Sharon. I understand. She lowered her voice, as if scolding a child. And remember to be reasonable. People stay together out of affection. Don't make a big deal out of small things. And stop clinging to that paperwork. Give it to Ethan. This family has no place for a daughter-in-law who is so divisive. The words "no place" sent an icy shiver down my spine. So, to them, I only had a place if I was obedient. And obedience meant handing them the keys to my life. I hung up and sighed. Maria brought me a glass of warm water and said one simple, profound thing. Dear, the water is up to your neck. You have to know how to swim. I looked at her and gave a sad smile. You're right, Maria. I went to my room and took out a gown of deep crimson silk. Not a bright, showy red, but a dark, rich crimson, the color of a woman who has endured bitterness. I hung it up and sat before the mirror for a long time. In my reflection, I saw a face pale from lack of sleep, but the eyes were no longer hazy. They were clear. I prepared a small hair clip, the perfect spot to conceal the recording device tomorrow. Just as I'd been instructed, I packed a small bag with my ID, some cash, and a spare key, in case I had to leave in the middle of the night. I didn't want a tragedy, but I would not allow myself to be naive. Before turning off the light, I placed a hand on my chest and whispered to myself, Asterisk, I'm not going there to sign. I'm going there to end this. Asterisk. In the living room, Ethan was still on the phone, his voice rushed. I didn't need to hear the words anymore. I just knew he was in the final sprint, and so was I. But unlike him, I was running for my life. The night of the gala arrived as quickly as a lightning flash. I wore the deep crimson gown, my hair in an elegant twist, my makeup deliberately pale to make me look more fragile. It was the perfect image Ethan wanted to present, a weak wife, easily led. Concealed in a seam of my gown was the tiny recording device Adam had provided. It was weightless, but to me, it felt like a life raft. Ethan stood before the mirror, adjusting his tie. He turned to me, a look of satisfaction on his face. You look fine. Remember, don't talk much tonight. Just do as I say. I nodded faintly, my eyes half closed as if in a daze. Inside, I was thinking, Asterisk, I'm not relying on my strength or my voice. I'm relying on the evidence. Asterisk. Our car pulled up to the convention center. The entrance was a blaze of lights. Guests in tuxedos and evening gowns mingled, their laughter mixing with the clinking of glasses. The air was thick with perfume, wine, and the smell of new carpet. It all made me genuinely dizzy. Not from any drug, but from the feeling of walking into a battle where I couldn't afford a single mistake. Ethan took my hand, holding it like a precious accessory. He smiled politely at everyone he greeted. This is my wife, Catherine. He emphasized my wife with every introduction, as if staking a claim. I just smiled and nodded, staying in character. In a corner of the ballroom, I saw Megan. She was wearing a slinky black dress, her hair in perfect curls, her lips painted a bold red. She stood with a group of people, looking as if she belonged there. When she saw me, she glided over, her smile bright. Kate, you look beautiful. You have to have fun tonight. I looked at that smile and felt a wave of revulsion. I feigned a listless expression. I'm a little tired. Megan shot a quick glance at Ethan, then leaned close to my ear, her voice a whisper. Just be a good girl and sign. It will be less painful for you. I didn't react, just blinked slowly as if I didn't understand. But in my gown, the recorder had captured every single word. My heart beat once, hard not from fear, but from the knowledge that another knot had just tightened around their necks. Ethan led me toward the main seating area. A middle-aged man with a partner name tag approached and shook Ethan's hand. Ethan, is the paperwork ready? Ethan smiled. All set. Just waiting for my wife to sign off on the collateral guarantee, and we're good to go. I heard collateral guarantee, and my blood ran cold. This was the legal formality he'd mentioned. They always used beautiful words to disguise ugly traps. Ethan leaned down and whispered to me, Later, I'll introduce you on stage. After that, we'll go to a private room for you to sign. And then we can leave. I nodded. Inside, I remembered Adam's words. Asterisk, let them make their move. Don't be rash. Asterisk. The house lights dimmed, and music swelled. The MC began his speech, painting a beautiful picture of the project with words like clean energy, sustainable future, and ethical business. I sat in the audience, my hands in my lap, trying to keep them from shaking. Ethan sat beside me, occasionally squeezing my hand, a silent reminder to be obedient. When it was Ethan's turn, he walked onto the stage with confidence, speaking of vision, integrity, and social responsibility. He talked about how family was the foundation for every successful entrepreneur. I almost laughed out loud. The man planning to drug his wife was lecturing on ethics. Then, he called my name. And tonight, I want to introduce the woman standing behind me, my wife, Catherine. Though her mental health has been a bit unstable lately, she has always tried her best to support me. The words mental health, unstable dropped into the silent ballroom like a stone. I heard a ripple of whispers. Some people looked at me with pity, others with curiosity. This was the final nail he intended to drive into my coffin. One sentence, and anything I said from now on would be the ramblings of an unstable person. I stood up and walked toward the stage, the spotlight blinding me. The audience was a blur. Ethan reached out to help me, as if I were about to fall. I didn't take his hand. I took the microphone. I looked directly at Megan, who was standing in the front row, her smile frozen, a look of alarm dawning in her eyes. I spoke, my voice clear and steady. I'd like to ask Megan a question. Were you sleeping with my husband before or after you stood beside me in your maid of honor dress? The entire ballroom fell silent. Megan froze. Ethan lunged for the microphone. Catherine, you're having an episode. Everyone, I'm so sorry, my wife. I sidestepped him, holding the microphone close. If I'm having an episode, then perhaps you can explain why, on my wedding day, you and Megan were in my private dressing room for nearly 15 minutes? Ethan's face went pale. He turned to the tech booth, signaling for them to cut the audio. But at that exact moment, the massive LED screen behind the stage flickered and changed. It wasn't a smear campaign, not some sordid secret video. It was a curated sequence of evidence, displayed with cold, hard clarity. As arranged by Adam and his technical support, the screen showed security footage from the wedding venue hallway, Ethan and Megan entering the bridal suite. Next, a short, clear audio clip from the recording pen played just long enough for the audience to hear two distinct voices and the mention of medicine, paperwork, and power of attorney. It was a single, devastating cut. Then came the photo of the power of attorney draft from Ethan's laptop. The emails with Megan discussing the need to push the medical evaluation and increase the dose. The loan agreement with a staggering figure, $1,260,000. And finally, the independent toxicology report, showing traces of sedatives and psychotropic agents in my system. The ballroom erupted. People gasped, some shot to their feet. Camera flashes went off like a lightning storm. Ethan, failing to get the mic, screamed, "Turn it off. Who authorized this?" Megan shrieked, "She's lying. She's crazy." I looked down at her, my voice like ice. If I'm crazy, then how is it that the threat you whispered to me just now was recorded so clearly? I pressed a button. Her own voice filled the ballroom via the speakers. Asterisk. Be a good girl and sign. It will be less painful for you. Asterisk. Megan stumbled back, her face ashen. Ethan roared, "Catherine, you set me up." I gave a bitter smile. "No, Ethan, you set yourself up." I just pulled back the curtain. At that very moment, from a side entrance, several plainclothes officers entered the room, moving swiftly toward the stage. I didn't need to know who they were. I just knew Adam had said that when there was a clear act of coercion or fraud at the event, they would intervene. Ethan saw them, and his eyes widened in terror. He spun around, trying to bolt for a back exit, but was intercepted. They took him by the arms, informed him of his rights, and confiscated the stack of documents waiting for my signature backstage. Megan, hysterical, lunged at me, her hand raised to strike, but she was restrained before she could touch me. She turned on Ethan, screaming, "You said you had it handled. You said she was a fool." Ethan screamed back, "Shut up. This is your fault. You ruined me." The two partners in crime were now tearing each other apart in front of hundreds of witnesses. Their love was just a thin wrapper for their greed. Before the chaos could subside, another group of men stormed in from the main entrance, their faces grim. One of them yelled, "Where's Ethan Vance? The deadline's passed." It was a voice that cut through the noise like a blade. I knew it was Leo's men. When the smell of ruin fills the air, the vultures always arrive. The ballroom descended into utter chaos. Reporters swarmed, partners backed away, people filmed on their phones. The buzz of gossip was deafening. But in the midst of it all, I felt strangely calm, as if I had cried all my tears in those locked rooms, and now there were none left. As he was being led away, Ethan turned back to me, his voice hoarse. "Wife. Catherine, please, help me. I can explain." I looked him straight in the eye, and, for the first time, said the words I had held in my heart since that morning in the security room. "The wife you're calling for is dead. She died on our wedding day." I dropped the microphone and walked off the stage. The lights were still glaring. The crowd was still roaring. But all I could hear were my own footsteps, each one pulling me out of the mire. I walked through the crowd without looking back, because I knew that some things, once exposed to the light, can never be covered up again. I arrived home late that night. After the city had quieted down, Ethan didn't come home. The apartment was completely silent, as if the words honey and darling had never been spoken there. I walked in, took off my shoes, and sat on the sofa for a long time. Strangely, I didn't cry. Perhaps my tears had been left behind in the basement of the wedding venue, in the suffocating dinners at my in-laws. In the night, my hand trembled as I held that cup of sweet poison. Now, I just felt tired. But it was the lightness of having finally set down a massive weight. Maria called, her voice thick with emotion. "You're home? Lock the doors, dear. I'm coming right over." I replied, "Stay home, Maria. I'm okay. I just need some quiet." I knew that from now on, my quiet wouldn't come from closing my eyes, but from having them wide open. The next morning, Adam took me to give my official statement. I didn't get emotional. I presented the facts like someone submitting a report. The audio recording, the security footage, the lab results, the pill vials, the screenshots of the emails, and the power of attorney draft, and the recording from the gala. Everything was arranged chronologically, as clear as a row of bricks. Adam told me something I'll never forget. "Catherine, you don't need to say much. The evidence will speak for you." I nodded, thinking to myself that against true evil, reason is the only weapon that makes them bow. In the days that followed, I began to rebuild my life with clear-eyed vigilance. First, the assets. With Adam, I reviewed everything. The brownstone, the commercial properties, the company equity, the bank accounts, the investment funds. I added layers of legal protection where needed and appointed proper representatives. I changed all the passwords, replaced my devices, and closed every loophole I had previously ignored, thinking, asterisk, if I live a good life, who would harm me? Asterisk. Sharon called me relentlessly. At first, she yelled, "You've shamed this entire family." Then, she switched to begging. "Catherine, dear, I was just being harsh. A husband and wife should settle their problems behind closed doors." I listened, my heart calm. Behind closed doors only works when two people are still treating each other as human. When one person is plotting to have you declared mentally incompetent to take your assets, a closed door is just a place to suffocate. I replied to her once, very gently, "Sharon, I respect you as his mother, but I cannot respect what is wrong. If you protect the family's honor by forcing me into silence, then that is an honor I refuse to carry." She went quiet, the kind of quiet of someone who has run out of moral justifications to hide their greed. Jessica sent a barrage of texts, alternating between threats and pleas. Asterisk Kate, who do you think will ever marry you after this? Asterisk then. Asterisk Kate, please forgive Ethan. He just made a mistake. Asterisk I read them and turned off my screen. People use their words to test if you're still soft enough to be broken. I was no longer that kind of soft. Megan also tried to contact me from an unknown number, sending a long message claiming she was just in love, that Ethan manipulated her, and begging for my forgiveness. I didn't reply. I simply forwarded everything to Adam, following procedure. I understood that forgiveness isn't wrong, but forgiving someone while they're still trying to evade consequences isn't grace. It's foolishness. Then came the inevitable. Ethan was squeezed from both sides, the legal system and his creditors. Once his polished entrepreneur facade was stripped away, the loans, the deceitful paperwork, and the vile communications all came to light. The cunning he had been so proud of had become his own shackles. During one of the legal proceedings, I was told Ethan had a message for me. He wanted to see me, to apologize, to explain everything. I looked at Adam. He just asked, "Do you want to see him?" I thought for exactly 3 seconds, then shook my head. "No." "What for?" "To watch a master actor, Rehearse the role of a repentant man. Adam nodded. Good. Don't pull yourself back toward the poison. I left the apartment we had briefly called our newlywed home. I sold it, not because I needed the money, but because I refused to let rotten memories cling to my life like mold. I moved back into my parents' brownstone on the Upper East Side, renovated the living room, changed the curtains, and planted a new tree out front. I wanted the house to be filled with more than just size. I also made good on a silent promise to my parents, using a portion of the funds to establish a scholarship in their names. I didn't announce it, didn't make a big deal of it. I just wanted their goodness to continue to flow, to remind myself that the world isn't all mud. Then, I opened a small bookstore cafe. It wasn't fancy, just cozy, with bookshelves, a sunny corner, and the smell of roasting coffee. I loved the simple morning ritual of wiping down tables, hearing someone order, black coffee, iced, and the soft rustle of turning pages. Those ordinary things were true peace. A few years later, at a gallery opening, I met Benjamin. He didn't ask me how many properties I owned or how much money I had. He just stood before a painting of a sunrise and said, "The light is always most beautiful after a storm." Hearing that, my heart settled. Some words aren't meant to flatter. They just make you believe that decency still exists in the world. Our relationship grew slowly. I didn't rush. I had learned that love isn't something you use to fill a void. You have to patch that void yourself, with vigilance, with self-respect, with a life of your own. Looking back, I know I won back more than just my assets. I won back my right to trust, but to trust with my eyes open, not with naive faith. The lesson I learned is simple, but I hope you remember it. Don't let the word family become an excuse for others to crush you, and don't let pride force you into silence when you are being wronged. Money can be lost and remade, but your honor and your life, once lost, can never be reclaimed.